Movement is the most talked about skill in the Warzone scene, but what if we took our aim skill and movement skill to the next level together? In today's guide, I'm going to give you settings, techniques, and ways to apply them to have you start moving like a demon while staying on target at the same time. Which means all the movement should come from here and here, not this stick. The spiraling technique looks great from your perspective, but in reality it looks like this. Your movement stick, your jump, and your crouch button are the three functions that you should be focusing on to angle yourself away from your target or from a dangerous spot. The right stick should be utilized to stay on target and also to control recoil. Jumping around like a bobblehead does absolutely nothing in keeping the enemy's shots off you. Moving your character is what messes with your enemy's tracking ability. Your look stick needs to be precise. Check out my first aiming guide for tips to fine-tune that technique. I'll leave the link in the description. Don't forget to like the video and sub to the channel for more guides. I'm going to give you a quick in-depth look to my settings that you have to try. Some movement techniques from the basic slide cancel all the way up to chaining multiple camera breaks. Real examples on some sweaty rebirth lobbies, and finally some movement drills with aim management baked in. So starting off, I have the horizontal stick sensitivity set to 6 and 6. I know that there are a bunch of people that love the high senses. Try this. Try a smaller sense. I also play on a 1 ADS multiplier. People who tend to play on higher senses have a lower ADS multiplier. The consistency across the board and the settings that I'm going to show you later on are definitely going to streamline that and make it more precise without it being so wild. Raising your sensitivity does absolutely nothing to increase your actual speed. It just changes the input and the input speed of how you press against that joystick and what happens as a result. If it's moving way too much, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. Getting into the aim response curve, I choose dynamic. I use the default aim assist type. The stickiness of the default is the best outcome. The dead zones, your left and your right stick min should be above 0. I know a lot of people think that you want as fast as possible. What that means, though, is that anytime there's even a micro millimeter movement of that analog stick, it's going to register on the dial here on the right. It is also how you'll adjust out stick drift. I definitely don't want any movement whatsoever when I'm not playing with it. There's some that will argue that rotational aim assist, which we'll talk about later, grabs a little bit easier with a little bit of stick drift. They're not wrong with that, but again, when you're trying to stay on target and aim, that's where it can come back to bite you. So having these up a little bit, yours might have to be a little bit higher. Don't let that, concern you. A 5 or a 6, this is a relatively new controller, but in any case, the more important ones are the maxes. The left stick max should be lower. So if you look at the ring that's moving on the inside of the dial here on the left-hand side, I don't want to have to extend my stick. So if I go up to test, I have to go all the way up here or out here to reach that. So if I turn that back off and I go all the way down to about 65 is my sweet spot, play with it. 60, I've seen people go as low as 40. I think that's crazy. We want to shorten the distance that it takes to get to that full max sprint. And that's what that inner circle is doing. For the right stick max, I lower it to 90. I still want to have a little bit of play. So that's where the pull down is going to be on the recoil control. You definitely don't want it like the left stick. We want to be able to make small, precise movements without it being too big of an issue. Going over to the most important setting for this particular guide, we're going to be attacking automatic tac sprint. If you haven't tried it, it takes a little getting used to. It's what most people play on now, but because this is a guide to kind of show people maybe who have been playing for a while, not been playing it to the maximum capacity of what they're doing, or if you've never played the game before, start fresh, start with this. It'll be much easier to learn, and it makes it so you don't have to actuate by pressing in your joystick, cuts down on time, saves the life of the controller. In general, is just so much smoother, which is why it's so popular. Slide maintain sprint, I would leave on, but leaving this on is something that we want to have the game continue that sprint easily, especially with automatic tac sprint on. Auto move forward, we want off. Single tap run is going to make it so that if there's an instance where we need to activate that stick by pressing it in, or if you accidentally do it, it's going to take you right back into that automatic tac sprint behavior. Grounded mantle, I have a love-hate relationship with this function. I will show you a mechanic where this can get you in trouble. Stick management is definitely a crucial part of that. For the majority of the time that I play, I turn it on. And if it's on, it will help you get away from people. It would help you go through windows. In fact, that's one of my hated things about the fact that they put
panes of glass in the windows, because if you don't have this turned on, you go to jump into it, you got a melee, and the game just treats it like you're jumping against a wall. So turning it on, there's going to be a game function here that I'm going to show you that you have to be very careful with. Automatic airborne mantle, I leave to partial, makes it so that if you're falling against the edge of a building and you just press A1 so you don't miss that jump, if that's you, make sure that this is turned on. Automatic ground mantle and hang I have off. I don't need anything else going on when I'm trying to do pull-ups. Slide only behavior. Yes, hybrid is better. If you're clicking in on your stick and then you go to slide, it will revert to a dive. What I have found is there's accidental clicks there, and you can dive way out of cover when you just wanted to slide, or you can also drop shot when you didn't intend to, which is both jarring for you and the player that you're going up against. Again, that's a personal preference. If you are having success with hybrid, go for it. Tap to slide and tap to dive, you're introducing a delay. You're giving the priority to the first one and delay to the second one, and I just think that's not efficient. So me, for right now, I'm going to stick with slide only. If they have a better system, which they hope they do, continue to revise that for Omni movement, which is going to bring in a whole new idea of doing all these mechanics in multiple directions. Obviously, we'll be putting out a guide for that when Black Ops 6 comes out, and I've had some time to get my feet wet with it, but slide only for now. Parachute automatic behavior I turn off. You definitely want to have this off. The reason being is you want to open your chute at the last possible second. You want to be able to time it right. When you're landing on people, you don't want the game deciding when your chute's going to open. It's going to get you killed. You want to be able to kind of regain on somebody's back like that. Sprinting door bash, I leave on. Mantle only. If this is you over here on the fence all the time, it's probably because you don't have mantle only turned on. You don't want to be doing flexed arm hangs on a fence or the edge of a crate. You want to mantle over it as quick as possible. Prioritize interact. Again, an art that you're going to have to learn the mechanic of when you're standing over loot. Have to be conscious of when you're reloading, because this will prioritize your looting, opening boxes, opening doors, doing things in a non-reloading scenario that require you to hit that X or square button. We want to do those as quick as possible. It's going to make your early game a lot more fluid, and you're going to be getting guns and plates so much quicker. For your view, you want to be on the widest FOB possible. If you want to take this down to say 105 or 110, that's great too, but we want the most viewing space possible so that we can see as much of our target. It's going to assist with move it because I feel more fluid. Weapon field of view also on wide, so that when you're doing a lot of move angles of your weapon is not hiding the enemy or hiding something that you want to look at, and your field of view should be unaffected. World motion blur and weapon motion blur should be turned off for both of those, and this one for recoil gets passed over a lot, and I didn't actually find this until months into the game. Least amount of first-person camera movement. I was not on that. I was on 100%, and I still had a lot of visual recoil, which felt like last year. And as soon as I changed that, that's another setting that I think a lot of creators don't talk enough about, because I believe it defaults to 100. Okay, so on the screen I have an overlay of my controller. I obviously play on a paddled controller. The idea is I don't want to take my finger off this thumbstick, but I still want to be able to push all of these buttons over here. So I'm doing that while moving. I can jump and crouch and reload and YY. You can play on bumper, jumper, tactical, or you can play claw if that suits you better. But personally, the amount to invest in a pedal controller is not that high. They're super common. But you're going to need these features to be able to complete the stuff we're going to learn today. Starting with the most basic is automatic tactical sprint. You don't have to click. You just push forward on the stick, and boom, you're running. Now when your tactical sprint runs out, you just have regular sprint. So your gun's up in the air, it's the most dangerous, but that's when you're fastest. And when the gun drops, you're just going to have regular sprint. When you stop, you can reset it. There is no slide cancel resetting of your tactical sprint in this iteration. There is, on the other hand, sliding or slide canceling, which will help take up the time that you can't be tactically sprinting while doing another fast movement. So by sliding, you can get yourself through that scenario that you weren't able to tac sprint. It also equals the amount of speed that you're getting from it, and you can get from point A to point B a little bit quicker. And these two functions, sliding and tac sprinting, are the fastest way to get around the map. So chaining them together, doing a full tactical sprint, sliding, and then jumping is what's called a slide cancel. One slide, one jump. It's not like before where you have to do slide, slide, jump. You don't have to do slide, slide, jump, and then sprint. We already have the automatic tack sprint on, so we slide and jump, slide and jump, slide and jump. Now, this is very useful when we're coming up to the edge of cover. We slide up, jump, or slide, jump, and aim, and then we can get to any of our targets. Just like this. We're using the momentum, and we are accurately jumping up to the end and sticking onto whatever we want to be aiming at. This is much better than walking around the corner, looking at the sky. It's very controlled, and you can time it so that you can do whatever you need to do to get around the map. Pairing these two skills together and throwing in a YY, which is a way to lower that animation before you're about to take a gunfight, is most definitely how that came into play. YY is as far as an animation. You can actually cancel a lot of animations with that. If I were to go to throw this and go, nope, never mind, you can YY out of it. You can YY out of a reload because you see someone. So these types of little maneuverabilities and having that third and fourth paddle for those two paddle controller people out there are why I stick solely to it. I can change weapons, I can reload, I can jump, I can slide cancel, all while not taking my hands off the stick. So if you're sprinting up on the corner and you press YY twice, it does disable part of that animation, which makes it a little easier to do complex mechanics. Going up to the corner of the building, if you time your slide just right, you can get information. This is called cornering. That's what we were just doing out there on the other side of the yard. The idea is to come out in a more jarring fashion against a target. So if there was somebody on the edge of this building here and I wanted to just get information, this is one way I could do it. You could do it rapidly. So again, we're not wasting time clicking that center button, and we're maximizing our slide in there. Now, if I had an enemy that was closer to jump out, I could be right on there. I can also slide out and slide a little bit wider. It's way better than slowly walking around tracking like this, trying to keep your footsteps quiet. Chances are, if you're being pushed by somebody, they already know you're there anyway. So get out there and start firing on them. Now, you can also peek a corner, but you're just using the momentum of the sprint. If you look at the overlay on the screen, I'm not touching any other button other than using my left analog stick, and I'm just going in a rocking motion over and over and over again. So doing this takes a little bit of control, but it is definitely a way to get information. I have a clip later on in the video that I'm going to show you how that absolutely saved my life and my teammates' life. Just getting that information, deciding whether or not you're going to push them or if you're going to pull off to the other direction. Breaking someone's camera is really just an art of this moving and or jumping. So you're going to pull that a little bit wider, but staying very close to where they're coming. So if I'm here and they're pushing the edge of this corner and you time it, they're still looking at this corner like this, and I have now moved out past them and just checking out their ears. So in that time, they lost complete track of me because of the speed. Now you can do the same thing with a jump. It just depends on the situation. This is a dangerous scenario, though, because if he's got teammates back here, and lately in Warzone, there's probably one up here. You know, this wide aggressive tactic is a last resort. We want to maximize the cover. We want to knock him and come back around this direction, maybe focus the other way. Changing directions and constantly getting information with our movement, you know, as best we can to help take down multiple enemies. That brings me to my next point, is snaking. So snaking is one of those things that it's basically a drop shot, which I'll show you how to do here in a second. You're pulling back on the stick, and then we're sprinting back up. Over and over and over. So I'm pulling back and crouching and then sprinting forward. Pulling back and crouching and then sprinting forward. Now, this is that area with grounded mantle that if here you accidentally hit A to jump up, you're going to mantle. And that dude over there is going to turn you into a 16-piece chicken McNugget. So over here, if you're doing that type of movement, do not press your jump button if ground mantle's on. If ground mantle is off, then you're just still going to bunny hop behind cover, which is kind of how I see people do that on the top of buildings all the time, and it's just weird. But jumping over and over again is kind of corny in its own way, but snaking is a little bit more lethal because they can't see all of your profile. They just see your head, and you have a lot of information, and now you can slide into the next room while they decide to push you, and then ego chow this back out here. So way more effective in that sense. Speaking of drop-shotting mechanic in this game is still quite intact. It's just as simple as the other half of the snake. Pull down on the stick and hit crouch. The pulling back method is what pulls you down a little bit faster because while you're moving forward, you're still sprinting. So if you don't do that, you're just going to slide. So we got to pull back on the stick and crouch at the same time. Then you can jump back up from that motion and start engaging your target, which is extremely jarring. I don't normally do it, and I'll tell you why. Drop shotting, let's say there's a dude on the front of this truck. If I were to drop shot here, and he's right behind that mirror there, he only has a little bit of vertical jump to take me out. Now, I just exposed my most valuable possession, which is my face, to him and him alone, and he is literally going to shoot holes through it. Now, if I was coming up around the corner of the same scenario and he was here, then yes, dropping from a very close distance like this can be valuable, and then you can shoot his toes off. But if you are in that scenario, you got to ask yourself, well, would a slide cancel, camera break, or a jump slide, or any of those things been a better tactic? And the chances are yes, because you're going to have way more control, and if you start missing your shots, you're going to be able to get out of there quicker. So I think there's a reason I don't see a lot of it anymore, which I'm super thankful. I actually can't stand the drop shot. It was an overly abused mechanic, but it is still there. They took out b-hopping. You get one or two little tiny jumps after your first jump, and that's about it. But sliding is still very much a part of it, and you can slide, jump, slide. You can do those combinations, but multiple jumps is going to get you in trouble, so don't try to be a rabbit, okay? All right, so let's get you into some examples, and then we're going to hit some drills, and I'm going to show you how to chain all this together and still focus on your aim at the same time. So here I have multiple people pushing me, prioritizing the target, staying on my center, using the cover with sliding, and decide to slide past this guy and break his camera. Now I'm pushing the same team. I'm using the side of the doorway to keep out of danger from the third threat. Now when I go back to push the opposite doorway, I'm still keeping an angle, using cover to hit my reload, timing it so that I'm ready to re-engage with my teammate, pushing down but not too far, able to take out this guy, time that reload again before I can re-engage in case there's another one coming down the steps. So I know I have multiple sets of footsteps. I hear this guy, I push down the steps at him using a jump and a quick mantle. I'm going to scoop the door just in case. You never know who's outside of it. Then I quick peek the upstairs room, not all the way commit. Here I'm using the roof line to kind of corner peek the first kill, popping back in to get the second. Got two knocked. I decide to push to go for both my thirst, and I hear teammate 3 and 4 coming for me. So I stim out. I use that grounded mantle to get across as many surfaces as I can, and then I'm able to outplay them and get back inside to safety while they're still looking for me outside. And this guy's in this room. I see him. I slide back. I go the opposite direction and then jump strafe, pulling that left stick because what's giving me that rotational aim assist, and he's still looking for me on the opposite side. Here we have another slide and camera break. He was still looking for me on the front corner. I went ahead and swung really wide. Now I just killed this guy in the loadout. I know his teammate's inside. I push up. I see him in the window, so I back up to the right and a fast slide cancel right into his kneecaps while strafing. Here we're being pushed by an entire team. So my teammate and I split the door. See the guy come in, hits me with a thermite. I have to slide out. I start using cover to peek the doorway while giving call-outs and returning fire. Changing location again. Peeking the window and ready for another player to push in.
So now we want to go into a private match. We want to turn the health up to 300 and put on about 5 bots. I know a lot of people use the turn the aim assist off thing. That's great for aim guides. We need to focus on acquiring the target and staying on target. So for this, I'm going to leave this on. Want to chain together the slide cancels, the camera breaks, all of our reloads, timing when we're reloading, using that cover to get information. It's important to, when you're practicing this, to move after every single kill. We're not focused on KD. We're focusing on moving after and centering on that next target, ready to take the next fight. We're shooting while moving and then re-engaging. Starting to use that left stick movement to strafe in every gunfight. Just like here, I could have chased up behind him. I'm going to run up beside the door. It's important to do all of this while centering and practicing your recoil control. If you're not in the center of the screen at the end of each movement, you're moving too much. You're just going to build bad habits and you're not going to be ready to take the next fight. Try doing this for 10 minutes every day at the start of your Warzone session. It is extremely important that you use the right health. Raise that up to 300 health. The focus needs to be on building muscle memory, how many shots it takes to kill, what to do after each shot, when to time your reloads, and how to properly move through cover. If you learned something today or you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you have a better drill system, and check out this video if you want to learn how to push teams more effectively.